diarrhea. If a patient makes a list of these things and informs nothing more, what is it that a homeopath should do? Just close his hands and say, I have nothing to give to you. Because it is not at all the basis upon which the homeopath decides the medicines. If at all a homeopath attempts to cure like this, he will be a thorough failure. However great much homeopathy he may be knowing. Because if the first student of homeopathy takes homeopathic literature, for example, the Materia Medica of J.D. Kent, and begins with one medicine, one wonderful thing he discovers on the first day itself is that it is his own drug. It exactly suits him. Whatever drug he may select and read it for the first time in his life, he finds that it is his own drug, which is utterly false. But he feels much similarity with his own constitution. And if he begins to search medicine for headache, he finds the headache under every medicine. Then which medicine he has to select? Is he to make a first selection and then if it is not successful, the second selection, like that? There are many thousands of medicines in homeopathy. If we do a trial and error method like that, the patient will be no more before the headache is cured. And then there is another group which the patients refer. I have difficulties with my liver. This is the greatest difficulty of the homeopath. And also difficulties with my kidneys. So, a list of the names of some parts in the body. Even after completing this, the best thing that a real homeopath can do is, I have nothing for you. Because there is no basis to select a medicine at all. What the homeopath requires is something else. We are expected to give him the information required. And also it is the pious duty of the homeopathic doctors to educate their patients as to what information they have to feed the doctor, so that after 4 or 5 or 6 months of treatment, at least one person in the family will be knowing what to report. And when he brings his child or his wife for the first time, he will be able to give you the required information. About these abnormalities, we have the generalities. Those are most important. Some people say, I am very much depressed. Some people say, I am fatigued. I feel something wrong with me. I suffer from lack of self-confidence. These are the most important things that we have to care. Because they not only indicate the nature of the disease, they also at the same time indicate the medicine required. Because the difference between allopathy and homeopathy is, it is the doctor that prescribes the medicine in allopathy. But in homeopathy, it is the patient that indicates the medicine, not the doctor. Whenever a doctor prescribes in homeopathy, he will be a failure. Whenever he knows the art of allowing the patient to indicate his medicine, he is a great success. So you should allow the patients to express themselves. The first thing we should see is that the patients do not feel doctor sensitive. The patients should not feel doctor sensitive. That is, the presence of a doctor should not be much felt by the patient. Because some patients are particularly nervous in the presence of doctor. They have no presence of mind when the doctor is there. But as long as the patient is like that, he can never give you any information. Within the first 2 or 3 minutes, you should be able to make the patient feel that he is in the presence of a person who is no more a doctor, but who is a well-wisher. And then he begins to narrate what all you want. When we were studying in our student life, there was a doctor of our university who made a medical examination of all the students. And in about 86% of the students, he has reported as heart palpitation and nervousness. And the university was very much surprised to know that there is such a big percentage of cardiac patients among students. Once again, they appointed another doctor to test all the students to discover that there was no cardiac disease at all to many of the students. What was the cause? When the student comes to the doctor immediately, within few seconds the doctor used to shout to the students, sit down here, behave carefully, and all this. And the fellows were palpitating and perspiring. And also the students were asked to wait in the ground floor, and the doctor was in the first floor. The moment student went upstairs, climbing all the steps, then immediately his heart was examined. So, unless the doctor makes a proper understanding of such mistakes, he cannot really understand the general symptoms of the patient. Then he should be able to find out the real abnormality. When it is winter, I find my arthros too much. Some people say in the morning it is horrible. After half an hour or 1 hour working in the house, I feel better. Some people say in the morning when I get up after sleep, I am very good, because it is after some rest. But as evening approaches, I find horrible. I am very weak and every joint of mine is painful. So you should be able to pick up the patient to which category he belongs. Some patients feel quite uncomfortable when it is warm weather in summer. Some people find unhappy in winter. And some people find that during nights their sufferings are too much. Some people find it worse during daytime. Like this, you should be able to categorize the patients in your mind. First of all, you should understand the basis and the foundation of the classification of patients according to homeopathy, and find out to which classification the particular patient belongs. So you have done much important work in individualizing a case. And there is the third, which is also equally important. You have very little gathered from the report of the patient, but you have much to gather by observing the patient in this hour. If the patient is asked to stand, one fellow stands like this. Another stands like this. A third one stands like this. You have to understand in what way the fellow is nervous or in what way he is not nervous. Some people do like this. Or if there is a piece of chalk, he will be just breaking it into little pieces. And some people eating the chalk. Many things you see. Some people, if there is something on the table, they will be doing like this. You should take a special care of all these things. Understand that nothing happens without a reason in nature. Then, if you go on reading the Materia Medica and the Organon of Hahnemann, you will understand the meaning of each movement of the body. Some people, they conceal their hands. They stand like this. And some people will throw their hands out like this. You should understand the difference and classify the temperament. This column relates to those mental abnormalities. Are you say excited? Are you say irritable? Or forgets when questioned? Just you question him, his mind is blank, everything is gone from the mind. Then in your mind there is a second layer going on. The layer of your knowledge of Materia Medica. Then you will find the person in a group of drugs. So that you can select only from that group and do not make a mistake. And then, according to the previous column, you will get another group of drugs in the mind. And those medicines that are common between these two groups will be picked up automatically. And if you go to the previous column also, you have a third group of medicines. So those medicines that are common will be only about 10 or 15. And from these 10 or 15, you have to make a selection. Understand, when the doctor himself is healthy, his mind automatically makes a proper selection. Because you should remember that the computers are discovered by the human brain, and it is not so very healthy for the human brain to depend upon computers. However wonderful the electronic system may be, it needs a human being to start and to stop. So always the human mind is more scientific and more accurate than any one of the machines it discovers. The moment the human mind places more confidence in a machine than itself, understand that there is a basic disease in the person. You can make use of the machine, but you should not forget that you are making use of the machine. And be careful that the machine does not do any decisions. Then automatically you will be able to select. The next fundamental principle in homeopathy is, unless there is a disease, you have no business to administer a medicine. This automatically cures many false diseases, because it is from too much of medicines we are suffering, not from a lack of medicine. If we begin to eliminate the number of medicines we use daily, though sometimes it is not immediately possible, you can do it gradually.
Vous pouvez le faire graduellement.
In some cases you can do it immediately. Within 1 year you will be able to observe that many of the diseases the patient is complaining about previously disappear.
Ont disparu.
Only a few will be left behind. They belong to his real disease. And the others do not belong to any disease at all. But they are the abnormalities produced by the various medicines used by him. So those who follow the orthodox homeopathic system will find within 1, 2, 3 or 4 years that the number of medicines used becomes less and less. And even homeopathy is not required so frequently as it was in the beginning. And I have as many as 4,000 families trained under me in India, and my observation of the little children in all these families is that after a maximum period of 6 or 7 years of exclusive scientific homeopathic treatment, the children no more require medicines. They require good food and good habits. And it is very rarely that they require medicine. Once, twice or 3 times in the year, when there is something very seriously wrong in the climate, or something seriously wrong in the daily routine of the boy. This is the experience of not only myself, but also all those who bring up children exclusively in homeopathy. Of course, scientific and orthodox homeopathy. He is bound to find these results. And the mental behavior of the children is wonderfully normal and healthy. And the understanding is automatically natural. This is about homeopathy and its cure. And mainly it is a science which should be used to rectify the constitutions for life, especially starting the treatment with little children, because they have a long future in their span. And it is not to have only immediate cures. Any other system can give you immediate cures, but the same immediate cures will be given by homeopathy in a safe and scientific way. Some people may think that acute and dangerous diseases cannot be cured by homeopathy. There are some false impressions about homeopathy. That is, it takes a long time for homeopathy to work. And they think we can use allopathy for immediate diseases and then homeopathy for a long-standing cure. That's not true. A correct homeopathic medicine, properly administered, keeps up its speed according to the speed of the disease. If the disease is a very dangerous and immediately killing disease, like tetanus, the results are found within minutes and seconds. A case of tetanus, after the attack of the tetanic germs, was once brought to one of our clinics, and one doctor immediately administered 50 m. And there was no time to take the boy to a hospital. So immediately after the jerks started, they brought the fellow into our clinic, because they were on the street opposite to the clinic. And immediately the doctor gave Belladonna 50 m one dose. But he was not at all sure of the survival of the patient, because it is the nature of the disease that it kills. But within half a minute, the jerks were controlled. Within 2 minutes, the patient came to consciousness. And within 6 minutes, he could drink milk, and he was kept under observation for 3 days, and he required no more dose at all. He was sent home. So, the speed of the medicine depends upon the speed of the disease. That is the truth in homeopathy. Many times we have seen this fact in epidemics. For example, cholera, etc. If we study the rules of chronic diseases and acute diseases separately, and if we try to understand the two situations differently, and if we know the difference between the dosage of the two situations, then we will save the immediately dangerous cases, and then after the danger is averted, we can bring the patient to chronic treatment so that he may be permanently cured of his real disease. The most healthy feature in about homeopathy is to make us understand that the disease exists in the, which are called mental symptoms, modalities, etc. Especially what are called the general symptoms. We should not have any value about the sufferings of the patient. The more care is taken about the abnormalities, the more immediately the sufferings are removed. And the more care is taken about the sufferings in selecting a medicine, the more will be the percentage of failure to relieve the patient from suffering. That is what homeopathy says. If there is toothache, if I select a medicine for toothache, it may work and may not work. The chance is only 50%. Because if you bring two people suffering from toothache, the one wants to have some ice-cooled tumbler touching his tooth. If he takes some ice-cooled water into the mouthful, he feels very happy. The other fellow, if something cold is touching his cheek, all the nerves will go almost into a paralyzed condition. And when something warm is applied, he is better. So, this is the factor which is to be taken into consideration to select a medicine, and not the toothache at all. If he is better by a cold application, he requires one group of medicine. If the other fellow is better by warm applications, he requires another group of medicine, which have nothing to do at all with the first group. And the wonderful thing is, the second group of medicines do not work at all to the first patient, and the first group of medicines do not work at all with the second patient. So this is only to find out how to select a homeopathic remedy. The most valuable thing is to tackle disease on the higher plane, that is on the plane of consciousness. If you make a rectification on the plane of consciousness, automatically there will be a rectification on the lower two kingdoms. Even the physical tissues are automatically healed. If there is much mucus and phlegm expectorated by a patient, if we use medicines on the physical plane to neutralize or remove the physical phlegm, again you have to do the same thing daily many times. It is only a cleaning and not treatment. But when the rectification is done on a homeopathic level, the physical tissues also undergo such a change that they no more produce the unnecessary mucus and phlegm, because the necessity to produce mucus and phlegm was removed at first. That is how the basis goes. Exactly in Ayurveda also we have the same approach. We have the theory of the vital body and the mental body and the subtler vehicles producing the physical tissues. For example, we have three functional centers in the higher bodies. In Ayurveda, the one center is called the center of combustion. The another center is called the center of materialization. The third center is called the center of pulsation. So, the center of materialization will be continuously producing the tissues required in the body, and the center of combustion will be destroying the tissues and utilizing the energy to keep up the constitution. So there is a continuous production and a continuous consumption of tissues. And in the middle there is what is called the function of pulsation. So this gives us what is called the equilibrium of the two functions. And in a healthy condition, the three centers will be functioning uniformly. Tissues are being produced in a uniform speed, and tissues are being utilized in a uniform speed, and the byproducts after utilization are sent out as excretes. So, the first center deals with the assimilation of matter. For example, food, drink and air. The second center governs the functions of excretion also. And the third center governs the function of the movement of the tissues. For example, the nerves and the muscles, they will be contracting and expanding, which we call the function of peristalsis. The fundamental function of the third center, it begins with the functioning of the heart and the lungs. That is the beginning of life. The heart begins to pulsate when we are in the mother's womb still, and the lungs begin to pulsate the moment we come out and take our birth. And when these three functions are normally being done, the result is what we call health. In the original textbooks, this center is called Vata, that is pulsation. The materializing center is called Kapha, and the third is called Pitta. These are Sanskrit equivalent terms: Vata, Kapha and Pitta. And whenever there is a disturbance in one of these three centers, there will be an unnecessary production of some tissues in making an attempt to expel something from the constitution. So each of these three centers produce a separate group of diseases. The first group produces the diseases of discharges. That is, it may be the mucus or the phlegm, or from the ear, from the eyes, diarrhea, vomiting. That is the first group of diseases. The second group of diseases produces destructive chemicals, overproduction of destructive chemicals in the body. For example, acidity and something dangerous in the lungs and the over secretion of liver. All the dangerous chemicals over secreting takes place from the second center. And also diseases of wastage and emaciation, that is loss of weight, etc. For example, tuberculosis and that group of diseases are produced by a part of the second group of activity. And the third center, when disturbed, produces a disturbance in the movement of the muscles and nerves. So we find a loss of peristalsis to the various parts of the body. The alimentary canal will have much wind formation, bloating, distension of the stomach, and pressure to the heart. And also the various nerves losing their capacity to function, called periasis and paralysis, temporary or permanent, in various degrees. And life leaving a part of the body and producing in course of time diseases like cancer, leprosy and gangrene.